A gentle whir of machinery droned through the air, occasionally struck through by the sound of ticking. A young man sat in front of his sewing machine, pushing a pair of dungarees along it to sew in patch upon patch.
Every part of this room was a calming larghetto.
The gradual pitter-patter of the rain, the creaking of the walls in the wind, and his humming of a lullaby. Following that rhythm, he fed in bits of fabric into the machine, superimposing patches onto worn bits of linen. He did it all with deft precision. He had done so many times before, of course. With each tick and pull of the pre-threaded needle, the click of stitching resounded, followed by the shk of pulling the thread before he finally turned the cloth again. This work carried on for almost 2 hours, seemingly endless, a peaceful monotony. But after time and patience, he finished patching all that wear and tear. With a gentle smile, he steadily dragged the cloth away.
There we go.
He holds up the dungarees to the light of the window, smiling to himself.
I do think I did a good job.
He then turns, looking at a life-sized wooden doll with a cloth covering its body. The young man gave him a fond glance, the type one would give their closest friend. He then stood up, tucking a strand of his hemlock-colored hair behind a sharp ear.
Hope you enjoy the touch-ups I did, Callan. I even remolded the bits of silver.
The doll slumps over due to gravity, and the young man chuckles, as if this were a response. Before he can put the newly made dungarees on his friend, there is a knock at the door.
Ah!
He trips over his own 2 feet as he scrambles about.
A minute. I'll just be a minute.
He begins to sweep his sewing kit, journals, and books in an open drawer.
Please.
Lucian's eyes widen as he sees an already opened letter with gold leafing, then stuffs it under a pile of documents.
Please don't come in yet. I still haven't dressed.
Lucian, it's just me. You really don't have to worry.
That's good. I mean, I knew that.
He still covers Kellon with a sheet, then lumbers over, immediately stumbling over the incline and scrambling to the door.
It's just you, though? Father isn't there.
Why on Holidor would I be with him?
That's right, I guess. It was a silly question.
He opens the door just a crack, looking out with paranoia, before opening up completely to see his sister. He looks up at him with concern. Her hands were on her hips and her eyebrows were furrowed with a worried frown. He looks away from her worried face.
Is there anything you wanted?
I need your help giving Mum her medicine.
Shouldn't Michaela help with that?
She's working on the next batch of tonic.
Oh, I guess I can help then, but...
He gives her a sad, nervous smile, holding his arms close to him as she looks at him with sympathy.
Can we go there together? If that's all right, I mean.
Of course it is. You're my brother.
Yeah, I know.
Come on. She wants to see you. The two of them walk down the hallway, Lucian lingering inches behind Camellia. Camellia is looking forward, while he is looking at the floor. He bites his lip, unsure of what to say, but his worry is obvious to her. She turns her head back towards Lucian. Keep your chin up. She'll be better before you know it.
You should be more worried for yourself. She's your mother.
Our mother. She's our mother. Don't forget that. He quiets, looking to the side with shame as they walk. There's photos on the wall of their family. Seeing a photo of him with his father, he looks away toward another picture. He took notice of a picture of Camellia, Marigold, and him when he was younger. Camellia and him were both beaming, his adoptive mother smiling with content. He chuckles as he notices the bunny ears from Camellia behind his head, then looks at Marigold, remembering how healthy she used to look. He slowly frowned, looking down at his feet. "Luca, are you coming?"
Yeah, I am.
The two of them then come to stand in front of their mother's room, which had dried paint pictures depicting various bright flowers. Looking down at it, Lucian's brows furrow as Camellia reaches for the brass doorknob.
Has she gotten better at all?
He stands, waiting for her to say some good news. But instead of answering, Camellia simply gripped onto the doorknob, fingers tightening against it. Lucian's smile lowered, and his eyes traveled down to his shoes.
Oh.
I wouldn't expect any progress today, Luca.
It's alright. I shouldn't have asked. Let's just go in.
She nods, then slowly opens the door. The light of the hall seeps into the master bedroom. The room itself was rather dim, though the sun floods in from an open window, the only thing offering shade being the sheer white drapery. The room was normally calming with its natural colors, light beechwood flooring and simple furnishing. Paintings from their mother used to decorate the walls, but are now in a wooden box tucked in the corner. An easel covered in a dust sheet stands near the window. The sunlight highlights bits of lint in the air. Lucian looks down at his mother. She is laid down on the bed, tucked in tight with quilts. Her dark skin was sallow, and her eyes stared off into the corner of the room. Both her hands limply held onto her quilt. She did not react to Lucian or Camellia entering the room, but her chest rose and fell slowly. Lucian is terrified and mourning. Camellia is resigned, as if she's used to it. She walks over to the wicker chair by the bed, then pulls up an art stool that was leaning against the wall. She then motions towards the chair. "Sid, you can even hold her hand if you want. I know she'd want it." He nods and sits down, holding his mother's hand gently. He looks at the black and purple veins crawling further up her arm, beginning to tear up. Camellia puts her hand on his shoulder comfortingly. "It's okay, Luca. It's okay."
No, it's not. It's not.
There was a thumping down the hallway, almost as if someone were running at a breakneck pace. The sibling shot up with surprise. Camellia stood up cautiously, still keeping her hand on his shoulder. Lucian simply looked toward the door with terrified eyes. Then finally, the door swung open. At the entrance, a tall, waif-like lady with rye blonde hair panted. She didn't even smooth out her maid's uniform. "Michaela, what's wrong?" Michaela cuts her off with a look, causing Camellia to glare and grip her brother's shoulder protectively. "Are you kidding me?"
Unfortunately, I'm not. I saw him at the front door just now.
"What does he want?"
I have no clue. But whatever it is, I don't think either of us will like it.
Camellia frowned, then turned towards Lucian, who simply flicked his vision between the both of them with flabbergast. She tried to give him a comforting pat, but this only served to increase his anxiety. "Don't worry, Luca. I'll take care of it." Camellia then brought out a tonic from her jacket pocket. "In the meantime, can you give Mum this?" Lucian gave a mechanical nod before taking the tonic with a shaking hand. Michaela stood attention at the doorway. Inhaling, the younger man forced his nerves to calm down as he uncorked the tonic and brought it to his mother's lips. He gingerly took her chin, opening up her mouth. Then he tipped the liquid into his mother's mouth. Slowly, she swallowed it. Not a second after, Michaela stood up straight, glare turning into a forced smile. Camellia stood up straight as well, though her steely expression didn't change.
Mr. Di Perenne, it's wonderful to see you again.
She shovels away and snatches her hand back as Mephisto leans in to kiss it.
You seem to be in good spirits. Oh, I am. After all, it's always delightful to see you, my...
Camellia clears her throat, wearing an expression of annoyance. Mephisto pokes his head in with a grin.
Asta, my dear daughter, how have you been in my absence?
Well, not constantly being called Asta was certainly an improvement.
I'm sure you were utterly beside yourself, as was your brother. Speaking of, where is he? I'm over here. Ah, my son. For a second, I feared you were hiding in your room.
He attempts to walk closer, Michaela tailing behind him with a steely gaze.
I'm glad to see you out and about, checking in on your poor mother.
Camellia shoves herself between her father and Lucian, getting off the stool and crossing her arms. First of all, your son has a name. Second of all, don't pretend like you care. I bet you only bothered to show up because you wanted something.
No, I bothered because I wished to check on my wife's condition. Not to mention...
He shoots a smirk at Lucian, who is trying his best to seem small.
Lucian asked me to come over. Did he not tell you?
Camellia looks ready to punch him, pointing an accusatory finger in his direction. But Lucian stands up, putting a hand on her shoulder.
It's okay, Camellia. He's telling the truth.
He looks away with shame.
I wanted him to help me with something again. I'm sorry I didn't tell you.
Camellia frowned, but seemed to relax at the answer. She still stared up at their father as if daring him to make the wrong move. Ignorant to her glaring, the man gave a satisfied grin. He then traipses over to the head of the bed, looking down at his wife with interest.
I'm presuming your mother is unresponsive to your healing?
The green-haired man looks at Camellia, eyebrows raised slightly in askance.
Now, what about medicine?
My abilities don't work. Trust me, I've tried.
And what of the next question, I asked?
Camellia shoots him a glare, but Michaela speaks up in her stead. We're working on it. It's hard work, though.
If it's such hard work, then why not ask for help?
We don't need your help.
My help? Oh, no. I'm simply too busy with my consecrations and whatnot to suggest that. However, Lucian, he knows quite a lot about medicine, tonics, antidotes.
Sir, if you don't stop with the nonsense, I will escort you off the estate personally.
Oh, well, that works out for me. After all, I've wished to have some alone time with...
Leave now! Mephisto chuckles, then turns back towards Lucian.
Come on now. We only have 2 hours. You don't wish to waste them, do you?
Lucian gave a mechanical nod, getting up out of the chair and walking forward. He made eye contact with his mother, though she didn't register it. Looking at his reflection in her eyes made him want to throw up. So, he turned, leaving behind his sister, mother, and friend in the dark as the man brought him away. After standing, Camellia returned to the stool and sat down, taking her mother's hand. She traced her mother's blackened veins, murmuring comfort spells under her breath. Michaela looks at her with sympathy. The maid stood near the door, leaning up against the wall as she watched her best friend. She then let out a short breath, as if trying to break the tension.
Are you...
I'm fine. She lifts her head and gives a gentle smile, though it's obviously forced. See? Michaela simply raises an eyebrow at that, a frown remaining on her face. She brushes the dust off her apron before walking over to Camellia. She lets out a breath, which lingered in the air between them.
With a smile like that, you may as well be frowning.
Camellia flinches, holding her tongue as her gaze flickered down to her mother. She continues to chew at her lip instead of responding. Michaela sits down next to the woman, brushing her long, blonde hair down her back. She then looks at the bedridden matriarch, tilting her head slightly. Camellia can see a few paper cuts on her fingertips.
If it makes you feel better, I'll put some extra medicine in her drawer.
Just in case. I appreciate that. She knew she should be getting up to leave. It's not like being here would make her mother come back. But still, there is a part of her that wants time to pass slower. For the clock's hand to slow for just a moment, so she could just sit here, to be with her mother, the woman who taught her everything she needed to know. The two simply sit in silence, Michaela putting a hand on the chair and Camellia taking it. After a moment, Camellia shakes her head. It'll be 2 hours before Lucian gets back, yeah? Why not go to the library in the meantime? I was considering reading a book or two anyways. Michaela's shoulders relax as she says this.
I wouldn't mind that. It might be good for you to get out of this room.
Camellia nods solemnly. She gives her mother one last glance, then walks out of the room. The minute she went into the yellow-papered hallway, she could breathe better. Relief aside, the feeling was not comforting. Hearing Michaela rummage around a drawer, then the clink of a few glass vials, her friend quickly ducked out into the hall, taking a quick breath. Camellia spots a few of the servants walking across the corridor, the three of them looking equally grim. The three also noticed the pair in front of the bedroom, pausing their walk as they went silent. Their faces changed to pity as they look at the young daughter of their boss, though they still said nothing. The leader of the group, a red-headed woman with long hair and sharp eyes, begins to open her mouth. The butler to her right elbows her quickly in response.
Maeve, you have studying to do, remember?
Let's go, then. Maeve seemed unsure, glancing back at Camellia as her two friends dragged her away. Camellia frowns, head hanging low. Michaela glares after the retinue before letting out an annoyed sigh, leading the green-haired woman down the hall. They remain silent, waving through the hall with ease. At the end, there was a bay window with a plump cushioned seat. The window was right next to the library, worn by years of sit, but still inviting through nostalgia alone. A few books Lucian had left out were haphazardly strewn about the top. Michaela stepped towards the library and opened the door. She then waved her hand politely, though flashed a small smirk at her friend. Stifling a giggle, Camellia nodded toward the blonde before walking inside. The library had its frequent use marked on its skin. The wooden floorboards had scuff marks of boots and chairs. The air didn't smell of dust, but the faint vanilla scent of old books. And Camellia could spot a few dog-eared almanacs on the chestnut study desk. The woman walked further in, slowly at first, as she took in the lukewarm air and atmosphere of the room, before finally setting to work. Michaela watched her, sitting down in her favorite lounge. The maid begins to clean her glasses.
What did you plan to do in here? Looks like you're looking for something in particular.
I put a book down somewhere. I know I hid it in this room. I just can't find it. She grimaced as she poked and prodded a few books on the desk, lifting up one and tracing the gold leafing. The noble sighed with annoyance before repeating the process with the others. Just where was that book? Growing frustrated, she let one manual fall with a smack. The verdant girl felt Michaela's gaze on her. Camellia flushed, knowing she must look quite frazzled at the moment. A chuckle came from across the room as the maid got up and walked to a bookshelf, grabbing a book off of it without hesitation. Camellia eyed her curiously, watching as her friend wiped some lint off the cover. Are you going to read too?
Nope. Just helping you out a bit.
Camellia furrowed her brows, looking at it with perplexion. Her eyes widened. Antidotes for the Ill and Needy, Volume 1. That's it! How did you know?
You're not the only one who takes notice of things in this house.
Michaela then winks at Camellia.
By the way, if you'd like to hide something, do it in plain sight.
Camellia erupts in a blush as she gapes, stupefied and impressed despite the fact that Michaela is always like this. She then gives her a wide, grateful grin as she hugs the book close. You're a lifesaver. I'd be a goner without you, Mika.
Don't mention it. I'm just doing my job. Anyhow, shall we finish our research?